there is a little town in eastern Indonesia on the edge of Komodo National Park called Labuan Bajo. Up until recently, it was a sleepy fishing village. A sleepy fishing village that happened to play host to some of the most sensational diving in the Coral Triangle. And then came the tourists. Suddenly, Labuan Bajo had surfaced on the international diving scene. The number of tourists coming here doubled in just 3 years. Every single family home turned into a hostel, and dozens of new dive shops cropped up all the way along the dusty port. The sleepy fishing village was no more. Labuan Bajo was suddenly buzzing with the excitement that comes hand in hand with sudden economic boom. But the reality of the situation is unavoidable. Increased tourism activity in this area has caused serious damage to the coral reef. Now, I've seen this firsthand. While I was conducting research in Labuan Bajo, I saw some really terrible things. I saw this one guy place his fat belly on a sea fan while he was trying to take a photo of a turtle. I saw a terrible dive master, who's supposed to be a professional diver, stand on table coral and completely smash it. And I saw this 6-year-old woman who'd been diving her entire life tug on the tail of a sleeping nurse shark. And these things I saw on a daily basis. I can tell a lot of you are thinking, God, why does she care so much? Like, why does it matter? Well, coral reefs are actually colonies of living organisms that play host to more than 25% of all marine species. Now, 850 million people depend directly on the healthiness of coral reefs for survival. And we have already destroyed more than half of the coral on Earth. Komodo is the jewel of Indonesia. It's a place where I was followed on a dive by dolphins, where swarms of manta rays swam around me, and where every single dive that you go on, you see things that you did not even know existed. The people of Labuan Bajo desire nothing more than to share their reef with us, and they revel in every opportunity to learn as much as they can from tourists. The diving industry has brought money, and a lot of it, to a previously very poor part of Indonesia, and it's a change that's been welcomed with open arms. But the environmental destruction that's happening here, and in the majority of other diving destinations around the world, is a crime. This is the question of our generation. What can I do about such a complex problem? Well, I'm afraid in this case, the answer isn't really up to you. The power for change does not lie in your hands. It lies in the hands of the dive masters of Labuan Bajo, the people who live off these waters. What struck me as odd when I was there is how few locals are actually concerned about the visible damage that divers are doing to their reef. The locals have this passion for diving, and they love Komodo, and they've got a massive social and economic incentive to conserve their reef. So why is nobody doing anything about this? What's missing? Well, I believe it all comes down to one thing, and that is leadership. The dive masters of Komodo have everything that they need to make sure that tourists respect their reef. They have the skills, they have the authority, and they have the network to make a real influence. Only thing that they are lacking is motivation. And the answer to this? Leadership. A leader creates an attachment to a cause. Often all that's needed for a project to take place is a little nudge in the right direction. If these dive instructors were united in this common cause under a strong and charismatic leader, I can promise you that no one would even think of touching a turtle. What we need is a repackaging of the issue. It shouldn't be, what can I do? But how can I use the resources that I have to get something done? The problem that I've spoken to you about today is caused by man, and it can and it will be solved by man too. Now, Komodo might have a problem of leadership, but it's not the only place in the world with such an issue. What I want you to take away from this today is this. If you see a problem that you have the ability to solve, take charge. Take up a position of responsibility. Do not be afraid to take the lead on something, because you could be the ones who make all the difference in the world. Thank you.